Thank you for tuning in to No Sudden Moves Radio. And remember, stay on the proven path so you don't risk falling behind. Here at Business Legends, we don't overthink it. Look around and see what everyone else is doing. If it's working for them, it will work for you.
Welcome to Wait It Out, where we believe there's no reason to act now. The opportunity will still be there when the timing is better.
The age of disruption isn't coming, it's here. And the boldest move isn't following the crowd, it's following your why. I'm Patrick Leddin, and you're listening to Disruption Lab. Welcome to the very first episode of Disruption Lab. I'm your host, Patrick Leddin, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is built on a simple idea. Disruption is a powerful force, but so are you. In every part of life and work, the world is shifting fast. Our goal here is to explore how you can turn those shifts into breakthroughs. To kick things off, we're diving straight into one of the biggest disruptors of our time, artificial intelligence. My guest today is Sumeet Chabria, the founder and CEO of ThoughtLinks and former global executive at HSBC and Bank of America. Sumeet advises some of the world's largest organizations on how to navigate complex change, and he has a front row seat to see how AI is transforming everything from customer relationships to how we interact with our families. In this episode, we're going to unpack what's really happening with AI, what's coming next, and what you can do to stay out in front of it. So let's get started. Sumeet, welcome to the program.
Delighted to be doing this with you, and congratulations, Patrick, on your book. I can't
thanks.
wait to get my hand on it.
Thanks so much about it. The audience should know that actually you have a relationship to this book because this book came out of a class I was teaching at Vanderbilt, and you were so kind to be a guest speaker a number of times in that class where we talked about leading through crisis. So I thank you so much for being involved in that class and for joining us today. Sumeet, beyond what it says in the few bullets I read there about your career, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself and maybe why you got so interested and when you got interested in AI?
Yeah, that's great. Look, I think my career has been 25, 30 years in banking and capital markets. Started in New York City, building trading systems. Early on in my life, I think 1990s, there was a big hype about AI that started in the 90s and it fizzled out because we didn't at that time have the data and the compute power that we have today. But I think early on, my master's thesis, I actually wrote an options pricing system using an AI engine at that time, using a technology called Guru in college. And I was very excited about it, but over the years, AI hype died down, right? And so lately, as I sort of was in my 28th year of corporate career, I saw an opportunity to really do a lot more with technological change. The pace of change was growing so rapidly, and managing large numbers of people and teams for a long time. I saw an opportunity to do something on my own, start my own business. I'd done it before, and I thought AI this time could make it easier for me to run a business, easier for me to give advice to companies on how to adopt this responsibly. Because I've seen the challenge of AI has always not been the technology itself. Building the coolest tools is sometimes easy, but rolling it out to millions of people that adopt it in a responsible manner and integrate it within their lives, or integrate it within their business, that's a difficult thing to do. And I thought that I had that unique skill to be able to make that happen with people that I knew across the industry like me that wanted to join and do this. So that's where the idea came through, to be a disruptor in a space that requires tremendous depth and breadth of experience with innovation, not just the innovation, the cool side of innovation, which is the build part.
It's interesting because you said like it fizzled out before. It was kind of there, and maybe they were early adopters or people who were really interested and almost geeked out by it, like excited by it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the begs the question is like, is it going to fizzle out again, or is this time do you think like we've got the technology and the capability, it's kind of here to stay? It's the new.
Yeah, I don't think it is because I think the maturity now is at a level where there's a lot more adoption, a lot more happening with it than in the 1990s. And 1990s, looking back at it, most people will tell you it fizzled out because for AI to work really well, these are prediction machines, intelligent machines. It needs data and compute power. And today our these phones have more power than the computers we worked on at those days. So we have a tremendous amount of compute power, and I think with the advent of the internet itself, the amount of data that we capture digitally. Think about the books. You have books behind you. A lot of this is available online today. A lot of this information that was not the case in the 1990s. And think about social media and other industries that have come in where we just are creating more data. So
Hmm.
now we have tens and tens of petabytes of data, and AI can make intelligent predictions if it digests all of this and finds patterns and correlations from all of this, and then it makes a prediction for the next word or the next letter when you even write today using these tools. So I think it's not going to fizzle out. I think models are getting better; they're getting more powerful because of that. And I'm seeing the benefits coming through in industries and stuff. So I think this time it's here to stay. Clearly, my bet about doing my business and what I'm doing would go horribly wrong if it fizzles out, Patrick.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we'll go with the premise is here to stay.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably a pretty good bet at this point that is here to stay. The question then becomes, okay, so what? What do I do with it? What can I do with it? What do I need to know about it? And I know this is only a 30-minute discussion, so we can't get into
yeah.
all these answers. But I was doing a session the other day, a little kind of a working session with an executive team at an organization. And one thing I do is based upon like this disruption content is really, if you imagine like getting an executive team together saying, okay, what disruptions are on the horizon, whether they're economical ones or societal ones or whatever the technological ones. And as you might imagine, AI always shows up on the list. And the question becomes, okay, when we narrow it down to the few we're most concerned about, AI makes it off of that list. It continues on. And then when they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this thing and how can we address it? You get the whole range of people in the room between like, can I just hunker down and wait till I retire and this will go by, I won't have to deal with this. And other people saying, this could be groundbreaking and shift the way we do everything. I would imagine in general, you involved in conversations like this a lot.
Yeah.
What do you see as far as like, is it one of those things like, hey, it literally is going to revolutionize the way we do everything and leaders need to be open to this. People need to recognize it. Or is it going to, over the course of time, kind of settle in certain spaces?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Patrick. First, I would say, um, going back to this, is it here to stay as well? I would say there is still a hype around it. So there's real value with AI, and the disruption is real. It's accelerating and it's massive. But there's hype still in the sense that AI would improve how we do things in terms of generating efficiency, personalization, but at the same time, will he fully replace human judgment? It's not there. We are far away from that, right? Fully human judgments. But going back to disrupting, I think the disruption is going to be broad and deep.
Mm.
It's going to disrupt every industry. That doesn't mean this is going to disrupt every role or every task or everything we do as human beings. But the disruption is deep. Just take a few industries, like let's talk about it. Financial services. Everything we do in terms of helping us manage our money, giving us advice, wealth advice, helping us run our financial lives, it could do that, right? Imagine having an AI engine that tells you, and a lot of banks are live with it. You have too much money on your savings account today. Do you want to move it to checking? Things you don't have to think about.
Mhm.
You got duplicate charges on your credit card by a vendor because they seize the charges. Think about sort of advice, in terms of legal. I'm a small company. I have NDAs now being done, and I have a little AI engine. I'm not going to say what it is. It's proprietary, but it can read legal contracts, redline it, send it back autonomously to another attorney. These are smaller contracts, not the big value contracts, and then give me something finally to read. So that's legal. Retail. Think about personalized shopping recommendations we're getting on from retailers. Think about the layout of stores and predicting which layout with what type of merchandise will sell the most. Where it's predicting consumer behavior. real estate predictions around what we buy, what we like, matching, supply with demand. And in your field as well, Patrick, in education, right? How we consume information through classroom lectures versus interacting with AI engines real time, getting feedback immediately. That doesn't mean that it's going to replace classroom, but it's just going to give another method, a mode of teaching, transportation with self-driving cars. So I can go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But the disruption is deep. And to your question of what companies can do or people can do about this, I think fundamentally people need to take a step back and say, what work do I do in my industry, my job, my role? And if I had to do it again, so if I had a whiteboard and say, I do this work again, right? So you get in the bank and you approve mortgage applications, let's say that's your job. What tasks do I perform to do that today? And eventually in the whiteboard, given the technological advancements and the disruptions that are coming, what can I do to change how I do this and do it more efficiently, effectively? Sometimes 2x, 3x faster with better quality and output, right? And if you don't have that discussion or that, with a group of people or your team, you're not disrupting yourself. And I think, I don't know, because your book is not out there. But I think that's kind of a sense where your book might be going with this, which is you've got to think a little bit about how you disrupt yourself. And that starts by going a deeper review of what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly right. We talk about the idea in the book that all disruption starts with you. So the idea of disrupting yourself first, which is your mindset and then your behaviors as well. I was actually in a meeting not that long ago with somebody who was expressing a lot of concern about AI to him personally. He did a lot of writing at the client or the company he worked at, and he said, "Oh my goodness, the other day, our CEO using probably ChatGPT or something wrote something that historically I would have written." And he had that moment where he's like, am I going to be the speechwriter of the future? Or am I going to lose my job? And we started talking about that a little bit. I said, do you see a place where with AI existing, you could actually make yourself more valuable, not less valuable at your company? And he thought about it for a few moments. We kind of thought, I threw a few more questions at him at the end of the conversation. He's like, absolutely, I can make myself more valuable, but it means I'm going to need to go learn some new things and become the person who knows this stuff. And there's nothing that keeps me from doing it but me.
No, Patrick, you said it right. I think for 90% of the jobs out there that will be disrupted by AI, human plus AI, if people know how to leverage AI to 2x or 3x their productivity or their outcomes and output, those are the people that will survive and run. It's about using a tool. I mean, think about what we did. Excel replaced certain things that people were doing manually, but at the same time, think about in the old days, traders that used Excel to build new models, financial analysts that use Excel to build better spreadsheets, were the ones that survived that wave of disruption. So it's about, you need to know how to use the tool to make. I mean, we talked about it, I think, in your class. Doctors that use AI will replace doctors that do not use AI, right? It's not that doctors will get, AI will replace doctors. I think a lot of the industries, the same is true.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare alone is pretty remarkable, right, Sumeet? I mean, things that they're able to do, at least what I've seen around, predicting cancer or diagnosing particular ailments, it's pretty amazing the direction we're going to, which I find particularly exciting. I wouldn't say I'm always like a bleeding edge guy, but I'm pretty far out there on a lot of things. And I look at this and go, this is really cool because the upside is so huge. But the other side of this, and you mentioned earlier about using things responsibly, the upside of this is kind of the ethical side of this, or what we're doing with the information, or who's involved, or who sees it. And there's a lot of concerns about that. And I would imagine in the spaces you work in, there's a lot of concerns about, are we doing things, the right, quote unquote, right way, or the ethical way? I mean, I'm not asking for, specific instances, but in general, like, what are some of your thoughts about, okay, this is a great opportunity, but within it, like anything else, there's some pros and cons, and we got to watch out for these things. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly right. So I think, Patrick, there are some things that companies should not be doing with AI if they cannot get the controls built around it, guardrails built around it. I mean, if you have to use data that's stolen, that's not yours, copyright, that's kind of one thing. But if you can create synthetic data, or if you can use your own data that you own, right? And if you can put boundaries around what you use, how you use it, if you can get consent from your clients to use their data. So it's not about what you do sometimes, it's also about how you do it. And how you implement these things is important. And there's always, a better way to do it that is responsible. And there are lots of companies that do it responsibly today. They have governance around it, they have oversight around it, they have committees that review what we do and how we do it, and there's methodologies they've built in to make sure they don't trip on any of this stuff, right? So if data is biased and you're going to give it to an AI engine, you're going to get biased output. It's like garbage in, garbage out. It's been around in technology for 30 years. We've been saying it. So it's the same thing applies to AI. So in some sense, AI is not new. Computer science methodologies have been in place to do certain things to assure the systems are accurate, predictable, repeatable. For AI, you have to have some new things in place. The question again is, does AI afford you the time to do this or is the rush or the race so intense right now that companies feel compelled, or people feel compelled to start to use this very quickly?
Yeah, there's part of me that's always thinking about things like this around the ethics side. When you mentioned, it has to be your data, for example. When you're saying that, it makes me think like IP related issues in general, right? We know that there are, put it this way, a varying array of the levels of recognition around people's intellectual property around the world, how it's used, what it's used. I've been to places, in the world where, a name brand tennis shoe is being made and it's being sold out the back door sometimes of manufacturing facilities, right? So there's some places where maybe they recognize and value IP a little differently than others. When you're dealing with global organizations, now you're getting into like who has the data and what are their local laws that they have in place. I mean, do you see challenges in that space going forward as far as like, hey, we got to get the world on a certain degree of what a acceptable playbook is?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a very tricky thing because AI is not like one thing. It's been lots of tools, lots of technologies embedded in a lot of products, a lot of services. People consume it very differently. Sometimes choices are given to customers and they don't, they give consent. I think that's a very debatable point. I do think that there has to be a minimum set of standards, and I see that being built by companies, good companies, by countries. EU has very strong laws on data called GDPR, and they've got an EU AI Act that we don't in the United States. But at the same time, I think there's a balance here. You don't want to stifle innovation. That is, this case could be life-saving, like in healthcare. That doesn't take that gets caught up in bureaucracy and approvals, because a lot of times having standards is not enough. How do you sort of implement these standards, and how do you govern them? And we all know what happens with bureaucracies get formed, where you have to approval and you get permits to build anything, and it takes like 5 years. So that's the counter side of it. So I don't think there's any one country or company that will lead on that, my sense is. But I think any one country, but I think good companies and industries like healthcare, financial, will get together and are getting together to set some minimum standards and guardrails around this. I mean, there's a good example is on the iPhone when the facial recognition came out, where you could sort of get Face ID and sort of unlock your phone. I said, well, why would I give Apple access to my facial data? And then I read about it, and it said, no, this data is mine. It's on my phone. It never leaves it. Apple has no access to it. Which is, well, that was great. So I use facial recognition on my iPhone. But would I do it in any hotel or a space that requires me to scan my ID to get in quickly, or a club? No, not until I'm really sure that data is with me and not out there. So, and consumers should think that way.
It's interesting that when you say like consumers should think that way, I don't disagree with it, but I think oftentimes we get into that that habit of when something pops up, what's the quickest way I can get this thing go away? Which oftentimes means we click on something that gives consent to something without reading it, right? We don't typically read the fine print that well. But that also makes me think that, and this can go any direction, but whether it's a company that's implementing some AI related solutions, or it's that they're offering to their customers, and there might be perceived concerns about security or ethics or whatever it might be, or even in an organization when it comes to perhaps you come to me one day and say, hey, we're going to automate 50% of what you do right now, and I'm sitting there going, does that mean I'm losing a job? And you're trying to tell me, no, it doesn't mean you're losing a job. It means that you're going to be able to do these tasks as opposed to those tasks, maybe upper level thinking as opposed to something or analysis.
Exactly.
There's a lot of communication that has to go around this. And I would imagine that there's the idea of either companies like reassuring people what's going to happen with stuff, because not everybody's as vigilant as you to read through the details, or
Yeah.
even reassuring employees and like being forthright with them about here's how this is going to change our world a little bit. But I would imagine a lot of your conversations have to do with how we communicate the messaging around this.
Uh, Very much, exactly. Yeah. How do you communicate it, and how do you demonstrate, that any rollout should be trusted, right? It's on the onus is on you to demonstrate that if you're going to roll something out, a new product or service that's AI based, your customers first know that it was built ethically and responsibly. So good companies communicate that with clarity and take time to explain it. And to your employees, I think it's not it's communication is key to your point, but it goes beyond communication. Companies have to demonstrate action, that they are continuously training their employees, giving them access to these tools and technologies, training them on it, and making sure that before their jobs or roles get disrupted, or before they disrupt their jobs and roles, going back to kind of your advice as well, uh, they have a chance to get trained, and they have a chance to build a new career path, which obviously elevates them. Uh, you know, so that a lot of these roles that have been disrupted first are manual, but at the same time, I think this AI wave, rather than the last one, is disrupting professional services as well.
Mm.
There were prior set of technologies all our lives disrupted low value work. This can disrupt high value work, accounting, financial services, wealth advisors, people. I mean, I recently got quoted an American banker on an article where we talked where this reporter talked about high paid equity analysts that write research reports on companies, large companies. The amount of time they spend, 40-50%, researching company data. They go to the Edgar SEC database, they get financials of the companies, they get earnings reports. They research so much data, synthesize it, put it together, and then they write the report. Well, the time they spend writing the report is only 20-30% or 40%, and they're high paid workers. Imagine a generative AI, agentic AI, being able to synthesize and gather all this information for you, put it on a dashboard with some more insights, compared to how other companies are doing in each of the categories. And all you have to do is now write your report, which is what they're brilliant at doing. So, in that job, as an example, that job will get disrupted over time if they don't do it, they don't leverage AI. Yeah, because there are companies that say AI can do it.
Well, I would imagine many of those people probably enjoy much more the writing of the report than actually
Exactly.
gathering all that information. But I don't know, maybe I'm just an N of one on this, but I have a little bit of sometimes I can be hesitant on things, even though I think I'm kind of leaned into most things, but I can be hesitant sometimes when I feel like I gotta know that the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say, right? It's worth the effort. I
Yeah.
remember, let me date myself for a moment. So years ago, I don't know, Sumeet, if you remember this, but there used to be a tool called Harvard Graphics. It was
Yes.
it was like a predecessor to PowerPoint. And
Yeah.
folks, if you're not familiar with it, if you know it, let's take a walk down memory lane. If you don't know it at all, you can look it up or just kind of trust me on this one. But there was this tool called Harvard Graphics. It was a software tool, and you could do kind of what PowerPoint does today, but much more rudimentary. So if I wanted to make a square on screen with Harvard Graphics, I had to no mouse, so I was using arrow keys, draw a line, and then another line at 90 degrees, another line at 90 degrees, another line at 90 degrees, make it all come together, and that became a square. And I was like the guy where I worked at when it came to Harvard Graphics. I could make a square, I could make a rectangle, not too great with circles, but I could make these things. And then when PowerPoint came along, I like couldn't say enough bad about PowerPoint, I think, because I probably thought I was losing some power here in the moment. It was probably some degree of immaturity. But then when I started seeing like what PowerPoint could do, it obviously was it was a differentiator by, multiple step changes there. So paint a picture, like what are you excited about what AI could do for us? We talked about some things around finance and healthcare, but just from your perspective, like some things that you're saying, like, hey, folks, these are some cool things that are coming that will make us all want to get on board a little bit here.
Look, I think, Patrick, where we're going with this is that AI might do 50% of what we do daily as individuals every day. Think about being able to speak to an AI engine and tell it, write me a memo that says A, B to somebody, respond to my emails. I think we're not that far away from AI responding to a lot of our emails that come to the email box, showing us a response. You can edit it, speak to it. It will understand context or so. Imagine going through your calendar and saying, here are the conflicts that you have, being able to organize your lives together. I mean, PowerPoint, you told me, up until recently, I think Microsoft took this feature out. I have a Microsoft business account, and I had the ability to type a few words into a Word document of a presentation I was doing. So let's say I was going to present at your event. So I would write down my thoughts clearly on a Word document, some bullet points and stuff, not a presentation yet. And I could export that into a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, where the presentation was built automatically for me by using generative AI, using my words, embellishing a little bit, but structured in bullet points, headers. Graphics were already chosen for me, photos were chosen for me from the library, and it was a full deck, 15-page deck already done for me. Just think about that. Now, was it 100% there? No, but it was like 80% there, I can tell you that. Right? Because some of these tools then know you a little bit now. They know Patrick, they know how you think, they have information about you. So I do think that a lot of what we do, mundane things, can eventually, self-driving cars are here. Eventually, you may not like it today,
Hey,
but
just look around and see what people are doing while they're driving with their phones
yeah,
alone. I kind of look forward to self-driving cars because I look around and
yeah.
half the people have their phones open.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. I think the world where 50% of the stuff we do today, I believe, we will realize is mundane stuff that we don't have to do. Now, that's maybe an exaggeration a bit, but running a company, I see it. I use some new tools to run a company, accounting, legal, and other things I do. It's amazing. It's not there yet, Patrick. So I'm not going to say that, but I could see a path where it's going to organize our lives. And I
Yeah,
think people have a hard time organizing themselves. I do sometimes.
yeah, I think we all fall into the trap sometimes. I was thinking about like take my world in the consulting world over the years. When I worked at KPMG, for example, the junior consultants kind of cut their teeth building PowerPoint slides and working in spreadsheets. So there's one part of me saying, wow, that means that, I could have a firm now where I don't need a lot of those junior analysts doing things because quite frankly, if they got us something 80%, we were feeling pretty good about it, right? So now I've got
Yeah.
the starting point. So I can scale pretty quickly. Even a team of one or two or three can scale and compete with something that would have been 30 people in the past, realistically. And then the other side, though, goes, okay, where do those junior consultants cut their teeth now? Like, what are they doing differently in the future that we wouldn't do? Because part of the mindset sometimes is like, well, you have to pay your dues and do these certain type of tasks because this is how you learn the ropes.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Yeah.
those are going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, look, we as humans are great at, we should be focusing our time on digesting information that's synthesized for us, given to us, and then making judgment calls, providing people insights, or doing higher value added cognitive work, not necessarily busy work. And I think people need to reorient themselves with that. So if people are comfortable doing busy work because that they have to check the box, then those are the jobs that are being disrupted. I mean, so I can't say that there's a way to keep it. If it goes away, it goes away, right? So you have to rethink and say. But I think most people I know in my career, and I've managed a lot of people over time, people mostly don't like the busy work. They'll do it for the job, for the pay, but they mostly don't. People want to add more value. They want to learn more things. They want to be intellectually stimulated. And AI provides you the ability to be continuously learn because it's always going to take some things away from you.
Oh, there's so many tasks I can think of that I get caught up in, or historically have gotten caught up in, where I'm like, if I don't ever have to do a travel expense report again, I'm a really happy camper, right? There's a
But
lot of things like that. Yeah.
that's a way we are going to, Patrick, is that you're going to have an AI agent. So, companies are going to have human beings and AI agents. And you're going to have an AI agent, call it the travel AI agent. And this travel AI agent can go and source the bookings for you for different flights, hotels, and stuff based on what you like. Yeah, because it's going to know you a little bit more. It's not going to give you hotel recommendations that you don't like. It's going to give you the rooms with the hardwood floors, let's say, if you don't like carpets and stuff. But it's going to be able to scour the internet to do that. It's never going to sleep. It's working 24 by 7, 7 days a week, right for you. It's going to give you a little bit of a snapshot on your phone to say, this is what I found. These are the 3 options, option A, B, and C. You say yes, it's going to go book all the flights for you, put it on your calendar, then generate an expense report for you, right?
Yeah.
All of that. Just think about that.
No, it's amazing. I mean, I thought about self-driving cars before. I'm like, oh, I'd like to own one of those, and it would just essentially be an Uber out there for me, and I go to bed at night, and it's driving people around town and
Exactly. Yeah.
generating income. So, it's inevitable you get to this point where it's like, okay, some people are listening to this going, okay, I've heard about AI, and obviously Sumeet's very involved in it. There's a lot going on. There's some really cool high-end things, but I don't even know how to start getting my mind wrapped around this. Do I need to go get a master's in AI? Do I need to take an online course? Do I just need to start playing with tools? I mean, what is your general recommendation if somebody goes, okay, I get it. I got to figure this out a little bit. Where do I start? What would you tell them? Because they're already doing it, right? If they're using search engines, they've got AI in it. If they're using ChatGPT, they've got it. I mean, it's already you can't get away from it at this point. But how could I learn a little bit more about it?
Look, I think every big tech company out there has free courses on AI and machine learning. I don't think anymore you don't have to pay for it anymore. There's you have to just Google it, and the online courses available, the YouTube videos available. If you're working for any company, as much as I think you would agree with me, as much as you get managed, you have to manage your people. I think you have to manage your bosses as well and say, look, what are we doing in this company? I think 90% of the times people ask those questions, I feel the information is out there around them. They're just so busy, focused on their day-to-day, that they have to just, ask their HR teams. They will probably tell them that there's something available in company resources and stuff. So I think just, and be intellectually curious, understand how, whatever you're passionate about. I'm passionate about health. So I like to know that my data is being recorded by my personal health devices. I'm able to see my progress over time. I can use some AI tools now that are available that can kind of give me better analytics than even the watches that we all use. But I think anything you're passionate about in your life, whether you're passionate about golf or tennis, or you're passionate about a particular topic, see if there are AI tools, AI capabilities that you can start to leverage around what you're passionate about. It'll make your golf better, right? And try it out, right? I mean, there are even small apps that can, you can scan your mole on your skin and say if it's skin cancer. Do I recommend it? Is it 100% accurate? No, but it's out there. But if you don't try things out, Patrick, or are intellectually curious, I would say, then you're not going to get better. Nobody's going to give it to you. Now, I do say that when I responded to the White House RFI recently on AI as ThoughtLinks, one of the things I did say to the administration, which I think is important, is that I did think that every American should be trained on this technology, right? Did I say that they need to go through a 10-day course? No. But I think the government should also put out 1 or 2 things or 3 things out there for every citizen to be able to take advantage of that. Because there are people that work in manual jobs, people work labor-intensive jobs, people are knowledge workers, and training is different for all of them. So that is an advice I gave, and that paper I'm going to put on my website on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, so people can take a look at it. But that's something I'm so passionate about, people actually doing something with this.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of connecting it. Just start with something you like. Start with something you're interested in, whether it's a hobby or a pastime or whatever it might be. Sports analytics, you name it. Everything has AI tools that you can download, you can use. You can just really start to get your feet wet, and you start to see the value in so much of this. Well, Sumeet, thanks so much. I appreciate you joining us today, and congratulations on ThoughtLinks. What an exciting endeavor you have unfolding right now. And I know you've been at it for a while and you've had tremendous success, and I know it's just going to keep going. I'll put a link in the notes for this episode so people can check out that article. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrick. Great. And great. And congratulations again on your book. And I'm so excited that you launched this. I knew you were going to do something outside of Vanderbilt, in addition to that, pretty big, teaching in your class. It's been a pleasure all the way through.
Yeah, same here. Well, folks, that's all we have for today's episode. Big thanks to Sumeet Chabria for joining us today to talk about AI, but more than AI specifically, really talk about the ability to think and act differently as the life in the world changes around you. And quite frankly, don't resist it, but just learn about it, lean into it, see what opportunities exist there, and perhaps you'll find something that can help you to really deliver on the purpose you have for yourself and your team and your organization. That's all I have for today. My name is Dr. Patrick Leddin. Now go make it a great day.